I do like books where like I read a lot of Michael Connolly, and I like how
Hmm.
it'll go in between different areas, so it's moving very quickly.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's what makes a majority of people who read it tell me they read it in 48 hours because it's that much of a page
Amazing.
turner. And I wrote the book exactly how I like to read them. I get bored very easily. I have a really bad habit of reading ahead and skipping ahead. And so I wrote a book where you can't do that because you have to read the next chapter.
Right.
And I did that by creating short chapters and by also alternating the point of view because it also it gives the author and the writer a little bit more freedom to explore the world in a different way when you're not limited by one character point of view.
Right. You're not, before I realize if I need to close this call, you're
Hmm.
not one of those people that read the ending of the book first, are you?
No, do people do
My
that?
God, I've met a few in the last year, and it's completely
Really?
despicable. Like I'm joking,
No, I don't do
obviously.
that. I won't skip that far
Yeah,
ahead.
obviously I'm being facetious, but I like even for
Yeah.
me, like even if a book's a little bit boring, like I can understand. Okay, I'm going to skip a chapter or two, but just going to the end because they want to make sure it ends okay. But I'm like, well, then what's the point of reading the rest of the book? Like,
Totally. Totally. Yeah,
I
I
just found
know.
it so funny. But
I
I really like that you solved your own problem like that.
yeah.
That is really cool. And how did you make sure
Yes.
that you, because when you're creating it, it's different than being on the outside judging it. So how did you make sure that like,
Yeah.
did you have to read it through once when you were all done and then make changes, or like, how did you have your own checks and balances for that?
That's a really good question, and I think it's a really important question. I think that I personally feel very strongly about the fact that I think you, as an author can become too close to the story. It's exactly like you said. You become too close to really see and identify what the problems are because you know the characters so well, but even though it might be in your head and come through so clearly, it might not be coming through to the readers on the page. And
Right.
so at that point, I got to a point when I finished the book where I was like, I don't know what else this needs. Like, I don't know how to make this book any better. And I had just been to a writers conference, a big conference in New York City called Thriller Fest,
Cool.
which is very well known. And I met another great author there who was a speaker and she was published. And I reached out to her and asked, and she put me in touch with one of her good friends who is also a thriller writer. And he offered to be a developmental editor for the book. And so he helped me. We made so many changes to the book after working with him.
Wow.
And an example of that is I wrote the book in first person point of view originally. So like me, you know. And he told me after reading it that the voices sounded too similar between Flynn and Wolf. And he was like, I think that we need to change the point of view to third, like he, she. And I was like, absolutely not. No way.
Yeah.
And I went back and I tried to make all these changes to make the voices sound different and sent it back to him. And he was like, no, like all of these problems that we have would be solved if you would just change the point of view. And so I went back through and I ended up changing the whole thing. And so I basically rewrote it in third person.
I'm
Close.
overwhelmed thinking of you having to do that.
Yeah.
Like how long did that take? And well, first, how long did that take?
It didn't take as long as you might think because we ended up keeping it to close third. The biggest thing was really deciding like, what do we change to like italicized thoughts? What do we keep as like just, I don't know, not exposition. And so it probably took like a good few weeks. It probably took a good few weeks.
Wow. Yeah, because
Yeah.
my initial thoughts are that I don't think I have a preference versus first or third person, but when you're reading a first person account, you just get so
Yeah.
much more texture for who that person is and like their whole inner world
Agreed.
and what they're going through, and you kind of take that ride with them. So how did
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
change the dialogue that they were having in their head so the reader could still come away with the same concept in third person?
I love that description you use. Like, I love how you just said texture because I think that's exactly it. And I think that's why I was so resistant to it when he said I needed to change it. Um, I, I think we were able to bypass that a little bit by keeping it to a close third. So like you're basically in their head still, and you don't have a viewpoint of anyone else other than that character. And so we were able to still be with that character. It just gave us a little bit more separation between the two. And
Huh.
I do think that was really important. And I think it made the book 10 times better, at
Wow.
least, by doing that. And so it was a really effective tool that we were able to use to kind of keep the reader there, keep them in the character's head, but like I said, allow a little bit more separation between the two. And the reason that this also, I think, very much depends on what kind of writer you are. I'm a pretty descriptive writer. I love a lot of detail. I'm a very vivid writer. And my editor would be like, a guy's not going to look at this glass and be like, this glass is, the wine is this color. Like, it's not a thought. It's not an organic thought.
Right.
And so for me, maybe it would be different if you were a different kind of writer, where when you're in first person, it almost has to be a little bit more trailing thought. But because I really like to be like descriptive and immersed in the scenes, there was descriptions I would use for both of the characters and their settings, and he'd be like, "This isn't how you think about like things when you're the character," and that was true. He
Wow.
was
What
absolutely
great
right.
feedback. That's
Um,
amazing.
it was really great feedback, and so I always encourage authors to enlist professional support and help who they trust, because it will do nothing but make your work better, and you will learn so much throughout the process.
That's good. Well,